Welcome to episode 2 of the Wetzel's Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Wetzel. In today's show, we'll break down the beginning of the Kansas City Royals season, starting with their record and results over their first 6 games. We'll break down some surprises and disappointments, and finally, we'll look into the upcoming series against the Milwaukee Brewers. To start off, we'll talk about how the Royals started their season 3-3, taking only one game again the 3-game series against the Atlanta Braves, and then winning the series back at home with 2 games over the Minnesota Twins. We could easily have gone 4-2 in those 6 games, but as we all know, in the 9th inning of the 2nd game of the season on Saturday night, Carlos Estevez blew a save against the Atlanta Braves, giving up 6 runs in the 9th inning to lose in pretty disappointing fashion. But all in all, the Royals came in strong after that game, going 3-1 in their next 4, along with winning 3 in a row. So that leaves us in 2nd place in the AL Central, behind only the Cleveland Guardians, who have a record of 4-3. But with a little bit of help to go on the long part of this season, we have a 1-game lead already over the Detroit Tigers. Obviously, only 6 games into the season for us. You can't look too much into the record and into the standings right now, but it's always good to get a little bit of a head start on who a lot of people thought would be our biggest competition in the division this year with the Detroit Tigers. Some bright spots in the first 6 games of the season. We have a lot of them, I feel. I think one of the major ones, the major one, is our starting pitching. In the first game of the season, Cole Ragans didn't start off super hot, but he did give up runs due to the long ball. 4 home runs in that game from Cole, 3 home runs in that game, resulting in those 4 runs from Cole Ragans is just what you're going to get with a lot of ace starting pitchers. They will just make at least 1 or 2 mistakes a game that could result into the long ball, giving up a home run to some good players, which is what we saw in this game against the Braves to open the season. But since then, the Royals starting pitching, led by Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo, pitched 29.1 innings, gave up 18 hits for only 3 runs, 2 of those being earned, 27 strikeouts, 6 walks, and a result of a .61 ERA. A .61 ERA in 5 games of pitching from your starting pitching staff will do wonders for the team. It's pretty incredible that we were able to come in and do that. There are a lot of questions at the beginning of the season about how Seth Lugo ended the season, about what Michael Wacha was looking like in the spring, and some concerns about his pitch mix. And there was also just concerns on if Cole Ragans and Chris Bubich were going to stay healthy this season, and if Noah Cameron could emulate the success that he had last season. So far, so good for the Royals. You have your ace in Cole Ragans, who, like I said, had 2 games starting. 1 game looked incredible. The other game, just a few mistakes that led to some runs being scored. But everybody else pitched insanely well, leading to just that great stat line that I talked about. And we're just looking at a solid starting pitching staff that can lead us to a lot of victories this season if they can stay healthy. Now, this isn't really a health issue, but we have already seen an issue of how many starting pitchers you will need in a season. With the Royals on tonight's game, we'll have to pitch Luinder Avila in place of Michael Wacha due to a illness that Michael Wacha has. Now, I'm very confident in Luinder Avila. I think that he could have an incredible season. I think it was a little shocking that he started the season in the minors, but I think you can see why right here with him coming up pretty early to start a game. I think the Royals want to see him as a starting pitcher. While he could be a great shutdown bullpen piece, I think the Royals really want to see him in that role as a starting pitcher, getting into games, pitching multiple innings, and giving the Royals a much more valuable player if he can be a starter. And he's someone that I didn't even mention at the beginning of the season of someone who could be a starting pitching option. Obviously, there's Ryan Bergert and Stephen Kolek, but Luinder Avila, if he could be a starting pitcher for our team, a quality starting pitcher, that just makes our depth even bigger on the starting pitching side. And with how good they've already been, hopefully that means we could sustain some injuries and still see some great starting pitching throughout the entire 162 game slate that we see this season. Now, another bright spot, I'm a huge Jack Caglione fan, and I think he's been a bright spot. He's had a couple games where he didn't look great and struggled, but overall he has a great slash line going 333 average, a 400 on base, a 444 slugging percentage, leading to an above 800 OPS, which for Jack Caglione in 6 games, that's what we want to see starting off the season. We didn't want to see a lot of struggles. We didn't want to see him striking out every at-bat. We wanted to see him having quality at-bats, putting the bat on the ball, having some hard hits, and really starting the season off strong. And I think that's really what we've seen with Jack. He only has a 27% strikeout rate, which for a big guy, if he can maintain that or even lower that as the season goes on, I think his ceiling, like I said at first, it's so high. And I really am confident that he will have a good season and continue this hot streak that he had starting with the World Baseball Classic and now hopefully is carrying into the regular season right now. Now, I think another bright spot that we really have seen is just the bottom of the order. This has been a huge concern for the Royals over the last 2 seasons. After you got past Bobby Witt, Michael Garcia, Vinny Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez, the Royals just haven't had any production in the 5 through 9 spots. But this year, it hasn't been that way. And our biggest issue has always been in the outfield. And the bottom 3 spots in our order a majority of the time have been Jack Caglione, Isaac Collins, and Kyle Isbell. And those 3 players being in the outfield have been quality hitters. They've been 3 of arguably our best hitters this year going into the beginning of the season. Now, obviously, Kyle Isbell has been a huge bright spot. We'll get into that a little more later, but he's just been tearing the cover off the ball, really doing something that he hasn't really done in his career. He's been more of a defensive piece, but if he can hit, that's awesome. Isaac Collins, maybe the first couple games were gave a little cause for concern, but then he came back, he hit a home run in the opener, he hit a double the next day, he's shown a little bit of slug in these first few games, and I think that's just what we want to see from him, someone who we have control of over the next few years, and he could be a staple of our lineup, maybe towards the bottom, but a staple of our lineup in the bottom of the order for maybe many years to come. And then we've already talked about Jack, and just if he could I don't think he'll be in 7-hole our year if he keeps hitting well, but if he can just be a linchpin in the middle of our lineup, that would just be obviously incredible, like I've said many times. Now I want to get maybe a little negative here, but this is just something that's been on my mind. It's been something that I don't understand kind of what the strategy has been, and I would like to see this being an issue that is resolved over the rest of the season. Is Q and the Royal staff going to be more analytically focused or more focused on the old school way of coaching? I think the main issue you've seen with this was how we used Estevez in that game, the second game of the season against the Atlanta Braves, bringing him in the 9th inning. You saw all spring that his fastball velocity was down, hovering right around 90 miles an hour, which is 5-6 miles per hour off his career average, which is up in the mid to high 90s. You saw that all spring, and in a big moment, you had a 2-0 lead. You got quality innings from Matt Strahm and Lucas Urseg to get you into the 9th inning with a 2-run lead. You brought in your closer, someone who you set as your closer. I don't believe that that's analytically focused. An analytically focused team doesn't have a set closer. They go with the analytics. Who's the best matchup here? Is it Urseg to keep him in for another inning? Is it to bring in Estevez, whose velocity is clearly down? Or could we bring in another relieving pitcher? Because I just don't see the reason that we brought in Estevez there. I know you want to give him confidence. I think you saw in that game, the Braves starting pitcher, he had a similar issue with lower velocity going into the season. And then he came and he was throwing the heat. Ronaldo Lopez came into that game and he was throwing hard and he pitched really well in that game. But not everyone is the same, and I don't think you saw that with Estevez. He wasn't throwing that hard, and he wasn't even close to his average. And I know that he's done this in the past, but if he's not close to that average, why are we putting him in this high leverage spot? And then obviously, the results showed that he was not ready. Giving up 6 runs and losing by 4 in the 9th inning, blowing a save, is almost impossible. What had to happen happened. He gave up a grand slam. He already gave up 2 runs, but then he gave up a grand slam to lose the game by 4 runs. And that's just, I know you really want to give him the confidence and show your locker room that, hey, this is our guy. We trust him. We trust that he can get this out here. But I don't feel like it's analytically focused like the team preaches so much. And if you're going to preach following the analytics, I feel like you have to follow the analytics there and know that he's not the guy you should be bringing in. So I don't want to dog on Q. I like Q a lot. I think he's been a great manager, but I really would like him to fully commit to either the analytics or the old school way. Maybe not fully commit, but in a way where he is showing that, hey, I want to follow the analytics. I will follow the analytics a lot, but I will use my managerial expertise to show, hey, I know this guy's really hot right now, or this guy is our leader and this is his role and this is where we'll put him in now. So that's just something that I would like to see just Q doing just slightly better. I know it's just 1 game and there's a long season ahead and he's had a couple good seasons of success, but that's just one of those things that I think he's still trying to figure out as a manager, and I think he could really enhance as this season goes on. And I think that would be a very good thing for the Kansas City Royals. Regardless, I mean, Estevez he's going on IL, and I think that's a good way for him to get his velocity back, get healthy, get in the right headspace, and then just really perform well for the rest of the season. Because I do think we need Carlos Estevez, whether that's in the closing role or just in another role as the season progresses. Another branch of that is how Q makes the lineup. And after the first game, I was pretty weary with how he was making the lineup. The opening day lineup for the Kansas City Royals included Lane Thomas batting 3rd, Starling Marte, who hasn't played since that game, and then Carter Jensen, who's been in pretty much every other game, our number 5 hitter. He was batting in the 9th hole. And I know that we were facing Chris Sale, who is a dominant left-hander who dominates left-handers across the board. But I don't know if I agreed with the whole aspect of, well, we're going to put Lane Thomas 3rd because he crushes lefties, and he's a type of guy who, in the late part of the game, if there's a righty in, we'll bring in a lefty, and he'll be higher in the lineup, so he's more likely to get in at bat. If you have that logic, wouldn't it just be better to have Vinny Pasquantino in that role, who's better than anyone you have on the bench in that situation, and he would be coming up 3rd? So I didn't really understand that being the logic behind, well, part of the logic behind having Lane Thomas batting 3rd. So that was just something that kind of confused me. And when the lineup came out on opening day, my initial reaction was, are you serious? Like, this is what we're going to roll out and start the season with? I mean, it's game 1. I get Sale's a tough lefty, but I would have much rather seen that kind of combination of analytics versus old school, just saying like, hey, this is our best hitters, this is our best lineup, let's put that out there, see what happens, hope to start the season hot. And if we don't, we don't. But I mean, we scored 0 runs. So obviously I'm a little benefited by the fact that we didn't score any runs. So who knows what we could have done with a different lineup. But regardless, I think the risk doesn't matter there. I think you can just start your normal lineup and see kind of what happens, which, well, we saw five right-handed starters the rest of the next 5 games. You just saw the normal everyday lineup that I think the Royals really want to have, which is Michael Garcia, Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, Carter Jensen, Jonathan India, Jack Caglione, Isaac Collins, and then rounding it out with Kyle Isbell. I think that's the lineup you're going to want to see pretty much day in, day out, obviously with rest days and Sundays and just switching around the positioning here and there and just getting some other guys in. I think that's the lineup you're going to see a lot. So just another aspect that I really want Q to kind of figure out and kind of morph into, hey, is Lane Thomas the new guy who didn't have hardly any success last year? Is he really the guy you want batting 3rd against Chris Sale on opening day. That's just something I'm a little confused by, and I just didn't fully understand. And then the results kind of proved that it probably wasn't the right decision there. And then finally, the last piece of this is bringing in Lucas Erceg on Wednesday in the rain in a game that was at the time 13-9. Now I understand that we had a huge lead, we squandered that lead, we used a lot of relievers, but early in the season, you want to keep your best relievers healthy. You were very likely going to win that game if you didn't use Erceg or you brought in somebody else. There wasn't tons of options to bring in. Literally, probably the only option you bring in there is John Schreiber. But is John Schreiber maybe not a better option pitching-wise, but longevity-wise and season-wise? Isn't Schreiber a better option to come in the ninth inning with one out than Lucas Erceg, who you may need in the next game or you may need coming for the rest of the season? Why bring in Erceg in a bad environment with a 4-run lead, even though the time run is on deck, when you could have brought in Schreiber, probably got similar results, and saved that arm from Erceg? I mean, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I mean, obviously Erceg got the job done and got the save, but it was a little confusing because I think Erceg would have he may have been unavailable on Thursday if we needed him. So that was just something that was a little interesting to me, something I didn't love, but I don't know. I didn't really see the reason why you had to bring in Lucas Erceg in that position. Moving on, let's look at some of the biggest surprises and some of the biggest disappointments to start the season. I've probably touched on a lot of these, so these may go kind of quick, but I just really wanted to kind of highlight some players here and just really look at what's kind of been the surprises and disappointments from the Royals this season. So first off, my biggest surprise of the year has got to be Kyle Isbell. I think Kyle Isbell can be a polarizing player at times. His offensive numbers have not been great. He does, in my opinion, bring a lot of value to the Kansas City Royals in the 9-hole. Obviously, he has exceptional defense in center field. That is why he's in the lineup. That is why he's on the team, is because of his defense in center field. In Kauffman Stadium, that still has a big outfield, even with the fences moved in. Center field especially is still very big. And just with a team that is heavily reliant on our pitching staff, having Kyle Isbell in center field is just vital and super valuable for the team. Now, if he can hit and do really well at the plate, that's even better. To turn over our lineup with a 9-hole with Kyle Isbell, that's perfectly fine with me. Or, which he's done a lot in the past, leading the league the last 2 years in bunt base hits, he can bunt guys over late in games or even early in games to turn the lineup over to Maikel Garcia and Bobby Witt with a runner moved up to second or third instead of being on first. Or he could even beat out the throw or lay down a good enough bunt to bring them up with first and second or first and third. So I think that he is a very quality player to have in the 9-hole, even with his issues on offense, because he'll make up for those issues with his defensive play. In the first 6 games of the year, he's played in 5 of them, and he has a .500 average. He hit 2 home runs. That's something that's very valuable to a team if he can be your 9-hitter and just solidify your lineup and give you good defense while also having a okay average, not average, but being an average hitter. And I think that Kyle Isbell could be an average hitter with the experience that he's had in his career. But the biggest disappointment so far, it's Carlos Estevez. We've already discussed this. He's pitched in 1 game. You saw how that went, but now he's on the injured list. He's someone that had a great season last year. Maybe his results weren't exactly what the quality of contact maybe showed the result should have been, But Carlos Estevez was a huge disappointment in the spring training, and then now in the second game of the year, coming in and blowing the save, going straight to the injured list. It's really disappointing that who we thought was going to be our closer is now kind of cast aside in a way. And I think that he could bounce back. I think he probably will bounce back once he gets his velocity up. But that was obviously a disappointing start to the season for Carlos Estevez. Our second big surprise, I think, I don't know if this is a big surprise, but Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo not having issues in their games that they started was a nice surprise. Obviously, Michael Wacha had a little bit of issues with his changeup and just with some of his pitches, maybe not looking as sharp as they've been in the past. They're both just getting older. And Seth Lugo, he also had some struggles with health at the end of last year. And just those two starters coming in, each pitching 6 innings, giving up no runs, only walking one guy between them, which was Michael Wacha, and having just a few strikeouts here and there, that is quality veteran pitching that we saw from those guys to really bounce back. It bounced back in game 2 when you brought in Michael Wacha and you lost game 1. He pitched a game where he put you into the position to win. And then when you lost, you blew the save. Seth Lugo the next day comes in, shuts down the Braves offense to get you your first win of the season, which is just a great thing to have for any team, is quality starting pitching to come in when you have a loss, when you have a tough loss, and steady the ship, pitch successfully, get you set up to win a game. That's what Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha bring to the Royals, and I'm extremely excited that we signed these guys. They have veteran experience, and they can hopefully be in the middle of our rotation for the rest of the season. Our next biggest disappointment has to be Carter Jensen. I don't know if everyone's heard, but yesterday, Carter Jensen, batting 5th in the lineup, gets scratched an hour before the game time. And then at the end of the game, it comes out that the reason he was scratched was that he slept through his alarms and wasn't to the game on time. That is concerning. You want all your players to be extremely disciplined, and I don't know if I've ever seen a mistake like this to where someone had to get scratched from the lineup because they overslept. That's unacceptable. I think you saw the reaction from Vinny Pasquantino in his interview after the game showed the frustration that he had, the concern he had for Carter as a person, not knowing why he was late to the game. And I think it showed the concern he had for Salvi, who is their veteran leader, who had to come in after a late, rainy, hard, long game the night before, had to come in not expecting to catch and then catch another game. That's not what you want to see for Salvi for his season. And Carter has a lot of responsibility on his shoulder. I understand that. And it's not easy being young. I mean, Carter Jensen's my age. I'm 23 years old. He was in my class in high school. He's my age. And I understand that it's difficult. And I understand he has a ton of pressure. Hopefully, the Royals want him to be in the middle of his lineup. He's been batting 5th. They want him to take the load off Salvador Perez. They want him to be a quality hitter. And that's a lot of pressure for him. But to sleep through an alarm, that's not because of the pressure. So whatever the reason was that he was tired and ended up sleeping through his alarm, whatever it was, that just can't happen again. And I think another issue you see with that is not just the disappointment that the team or the fans or his fellow players have, but he gets mocked today when the Minnesota Twins sent out a tweet with a bunch of alarms set, pretty much mocking the fact that he had to get scratched from the lineup. And it's got to be hard to see that as a player. And I feel for Carter. I hope he does well. I hope he bounces back from this. He probably will never let this happen again, but I really hope that he can come back from this and learn from it and be a quality guy for the rest of the season. And for the rest of his career, for that matter. I don't know if this is a surprise, but another positive from this season was Matt Strahm and Lucas Erceg. they both have been great. And I think going into the season, you were hoping they would be great. But they both have come in, pitched in 3 games. It's kind of funny. Their stat lines are extremely similar. They're both 3 games, 2.2 innings pitched, no runs. But then you differ a little here. Strom's given up 1 hit, no walks, and 3 strikeouts with 2 holds. I don't know how much holds are important, but I kind of like it as a stat. It's kind of fun. And then Urseg, same thing. He 2.2 innings, no runs, but only 1 walk, 1 strikeout. He has 2 saves and another hold as well. And I think that they've just been exactly what you needed them to be. And if they can be your guys that are your firemen coming in 6th, 7th, 8th inning, or if one of them has to become your closer or slide into that role, I think you have a solid 2 guys in your bullpen that are going to be dominant for the rest of the season. And then this one hurts me. My surprise player for the season was Lane Thomas. And I gotta say, not a great start for my prediction there. He's 1 for 13, 5 strikeouts. He has only 1 walk. And truthfully, I think he's just had a lot of uncompetitive at-bats. There's been just a lot of at-bats that I've been watching where he just comes in and he just doesn't look like he is seeing the pitches well. And hopefully that's just a beginning of the season issue. Hopefully he can bounce back. I was really optimistic that he could have a good season, but the start it's not exactly what I was hoping to see from Lane Thomas. So that's something that kind of has been a little disappointing for me. But I mean, we've had a lot of guys that are actually doing well at the plate, and at the beginning of the year, you're going to have some guys that struggle. So it's 6 games. He hasn't even played in all of them. So take it with a grain of salt. I think he can really improve as we go forward. But to start off the season, my prediction isn't looking too great. But finally, I just want to highlight the upcoming season. The upcoming series against the Milwaukee Brewers. We have a 3-game series at home starting today, Friday. The Brewers come into the series. They've started hot. They're 5-1 to begin the year. Like I said, we are 3-3. So I think that the Brewers are a good quality team. They don't have a lot of big names, but they're just have quality pitching. They have quality hitters. They have a good bullpen, and they're just a team that I think the Royals want to emulate. They want to become the next Brewers or Rays or these teams that don't have a lot of money, but just year in, year out are quality teams. They're competitive, they develop well, they're coached well, and they play well. And I think that this upcoming series is going to be interesting to watch. It's going to be interesting to see what we can do against a team like this. And I'm excited. I am hopeful the Royals can take this series. It'd be a great way to start. It would keep us above 500 for the season, and it would really just, I think, set us up really well going forward to have a solid first 3 series of the year and have a good first homestand as well. So just to break it down, on Friday we have Luindo Avila, like I said, in place for Michael Wacha. He'll be starting against Tim Patrick. Saturday, we got Seth Lugo against Brendan Sprout. And then on Sunday, we have Chris Bubik versus Kyle Harrison. So I'm excited to see what the Royals are going to do over the next 3 games. I'm excited for the season. I think it's a pretty good start for the season for the Royals, going 3-3. Like I said, probably could be 4-2. But you live and you learn. There's been some mistakes. There's been some positive moments. And I'm really excited for the rest of the season. So, as always, just if you like this video, please like, subscribe, give a comment, whatever your heart desires. Please just support the channel. Go and follow me on Twitter at Wetzels_wisdom. And I hope to see you in the next one.